Today on Nova Legends podcast, I have Mary Washington basketball coach Marcus Kahn. Won a lot of games and a lot of titles, and just done a great job over his pretty long career coaching Division III college basketball, almost more than 20 years. Coach, great to meet you. Thanks for doing this.
Oh, thank you for having me. It's great to meet you as well.
Oh, of course. Well, I want to give a little bit of your background for folks who don't know you. You were a 97 graduate of University of Redlands. You were an assistant coach at Shepherd and some other places, even NIA. Then you were head coach at Pittsburgh, Greensburg.
Greensburg. Yeah.
Greensburg, yeah. Where you were the first coach to take them to a regular season title. Then you went to Cabrini College in suburban Philadelphia, I believe. Took them to 2 Final Fours and 1 final. Won 153 games there. Then you came to Mary Washington, and you just finished your 11th season there. And remarkable consistency as a coach there. I know you recruit a lot of Northern Virginia players, which we're grateful for. Coach, did I get most of that right?
Yeah, most of that, yes, 100%. I bounced around as an assistant at a number of different places. I'm actually originally from California, right in the Central Valley part of the state there in the small town of Hanford, California. Found my way, my first coaching job to Des Moines, Iowa, where I was an assistant at Grandview College, an NAIA school there in Des Moines. Was there for a year. From there, moved east. I was a GA at Wesley College in Delaware for 2 years, got my master's, and then moved on up to Albright College in Pennsylvania for 1 year, and then to Shepherd for 1 year as well, staying with Coach Tyler as his assistant at both of those last 2 spots. And from there, moved up to Pitt-Greensburg in Greensburg, Pennsylvania for my first head coaching job. And, inherited a little bit of a different situation there and kind of got that program up and running. I know they're much more stable now and doing well. So from there, 6 years, I then went to Cabrini. Was at Cabrini for 6 years. Made some nice tournament runs there, as you mentioned. I had a lot of fun. Met a lot of great people. Had a lot of fun during my 6 years at Cabrini, and then, now here in year 10 here at Mary Washington, and I would say this has been very rewarding and satisfying from that first year to where we are now. I would say our program has really grown. Some of the other jobs I have had, I kind of inherited a different situation where they had been losing a little bit, and we were building it up. And here it was, I took the job after they came off that Elite Eight run, so that was a little bit tougher of a situation to catch up to. And but I really like where we're at now here. We have spent a lot of our time recruiting in the Northern Virginia area, obviously. I have had a lot of success there, and I think people will see that again in this incoming class this year.
Yeah, and I believe you took over for Northern Virginia legend Rod Wood at Mary Washington. He was the guy that took lead to the state championship in '81. He was the captain of that mythical team. That was the only team that won the state championship from the Northern region in 27 years. So Rod is a very revered figure in Northern Virginia basketball, and you kept up a great tradition. So since you've been coaching Division III for so long, there's been a lot of changes in college basketball, college sports. Has the life of a Division III coach changed dramatically in the 20 plus years you've been coaching?
I don't know about dramatically, but there are certainly, I think we're going through that now. If there's going to be some dramatic changes, I think that those would be happening now. I think in the beginning it was, Division III really was its own niche in recruiting. Transfers weren't a big thing 20 years ago, where now it is, even for Division III, getting into the portal and trying to find guys. I think to kind of keep up with it, you almost have to. We don't do a ton of that. We've done some. We've got a really good graduate program here. The MBA program here at UMW is awesome. And so we've actually have had a couple guys stay for their 5th year, or like this past year, we were able to bring in a grad transfer to do the MBA program. Something we'll keep focusing on, which again, that's new to me. that part of it. I don't know how soon that NLI stuff works its way to be as heavy in Division III. I know that there's some. We're actually first Division III schools here to work with Mogul, which is a group that helps student athletes find NIL opportunities, and helps manage that, and has a good database, kind of like their resume up there, if you will. So we work with Mogul. There was just an announcement last week that a Division III school in the Midwest is, they're putting their own fund together. They're starting that. So all of that is going to be a big change, certainly on the recruiting front and what's important. I think that it's just the recruiting piece of it is very different now than it was 20 years ago, for sure. For those reasons, that more things are more opportunities are available to student athletes, and so they're looking for different opportunities all the time. I think that AAU plays a lot into that, with how big that has become and the number of teams there are, and the way you can change teams mid-season in the AAU in the summer, I believe that plays a factor when they get to college. And if things aren't going their way, then the portal now obviously makes it easier than ever to do that. So
Are you
pretty different than-
surprised the level of player that's available to you now? Like, for example, Kai Robinson is a tremendous player. You always know now, it's easier to tell nowadays a Division I from a Division II from a Division III player. I know Division II players are a different here. It's a different scholarship thing, and there's not a lot of Division II schools in this area. But are you surprised at the players that are available to you these days?
I don't know. Not really. Listen, I think there are levels to Division III as well, and I think here at UMW we're able to attract a higher end player. That yes, probably could have Division II or low Division I opportunities, but because what the facilities that we have, the education that we have, the whole the whole package that we're offering them, and the opportunity that they can have here at Mary Washington is attractive to them. I'll always go back to, I think in recruiting, I'll always go back to the fact that the majority of it comes down to the relationships. And I think that that's important, to build those relationships early with these recruits. And in the end, it comes down to, they've got to lay it out there and see what's what are their options. And I will say, yes, I think that there are some players that it's easier to fall through the cracks now with the Division I schools living more in the portal. I think that the high school kids get hurt the most by that, because there are some good ones still out there that get left behind while everyone's looking in the portal. I think for us, that's the time where we really got to, again, take advantage of that, build the relationships with those higher end guys, and have that when it comes to decision time. They know us, they've seen us in their gym, in their home, and they remember that, and that's a big important piece to it. But yeah, I think that we're all going after the same guys, and so I think it just comes down to that relationship piece.
Well, I mentioned Kai Robinson, but last year there was Margot Soderson. I always butcher his last name. He's another guy. I was surprised he's going to Division. Division III is great basketball, but I would have thought that he would be a Division I player, and he had some opportunities. Ended up having a fantastic freshman year at Randolph-Macon. Is it harder to get young players playing time, because you got some older players that are four years older than these kids? They're going to have their time if they put their the work in. They're going to get their chance to shine. But is it hard to get them playing time early nowadays?
Yeah, it is if you're depending on your roster. So for us, for example, next year for us, our roster is going to be a little bit different. Right now, as we look on our board, we won't have a junior on the team. It just I think that COVID stuff where you have fifth year guys, I think it's all kind of working its way through to where now, as we look on our board and we have it broken down by class, we're going to be young. We're going to have 2 fifth year guys, total of 4 seniors. The rest will be freshmen and sophomores. And so next year it'll be easy for freshmen to get playing time. We're expecting that. We're going to need them to perform at a higher level for us next year. But yeah, I think when you're up and running and you're like, for example, this past year, we had some good freshmen on our team that normal years, yeah, they would be playing a lot more, but we were a little bit older. So they were playing behind some guys a little bit, but I think it all evens out. It washes out. Yeah, but yes, when you're bringing in those good guys, and I think it keeps your older guys honest, which helps us in the summer when they go away. You know, we don't get to keep them on campus and make sure they're working out. But if they know we're bringing in a good class again, then they're going to have to come in ready to go. And their spot's just not going to be given to them when they return to campus. So I think it helps keep everybody a little more honest in the summer workouts.
Yeah. Well, I talked to Jason Kilby about this. Jason, the Mary Washington soccer coach,
Yep.
he has a lot. My son played soccer in the area, and I know he's got a lot of talented kids, his freshmen and sophomores, that he didn't get a chance to play. His team was nationally rated, and a couple of them were like DC United players, and they have to wait their turn. As a coach, they have to do a lot of communication with the young players and say, look, you got some older guys here, you're going to have your time. Or do the kids understand that they can see the kids are older and that their time is going to come?
Yeah, I think that communication is key in all of it with each player and where you see them, what their role is. I think they understand and they know. Yeah, you know what? There's an older team. I'll come in and I may have to wait some time before I get my moment to shine. But I think it's important on the front end also to communicate that to them and have those honest conversations when they're in your office as a rising senior, or when they're on their visit here before they come into school, that where you're at, where you see them, how they can make an positive impact in your program. Or, hey, listen, we want you with us now, but it may be a year before you really get that big opportunity based on the returners that we have. And then I think they understand that better. But it's keeping up that having that honest conversation from the get-go.
Yeah. Well, you mentioned relationships as a way to recruit. Now, obviously, I've interviewed Carlos Poindexter from Hayfield, Sherman Rivers from Patriot. This year, Daniel Peterson played well for you as always. Owen Pottenberg's coming next year from Patriot. You got Jay Randall and Caden Bates had solid freshman years. Zach Blue is a big contributor to you. How important in your recruiting process is the high school coach to you?
They are very important. That's a huge relationship piece for us, getting to know them. And while there are a number of really good high school coaches in Northern Virginia, but these two programs specifically where we've had success, Zach Blue kind of started it off for us with Patriot. He'll be a fifth-year guy for us this coming year. He helps in that process with getting Jay and Kate in last year's class. And we know what we're getting from them. I mean, both of those coaches that you mentioned, we know when their players come out, they're college ready. They're ready for us and what we are gonna, what the day-to-day will be like for us. And having Daniel here coming out of Hayfield, he wasn't a part of those. He was graduated just before those state championship runs. But we know what he went through to get there, and he's been through it, and he comes from a winning program. And Los is a tremendous coach that, again, just gets his players college ready. That's why we're so excited about Owen and knowing what we're going to get from him. It's such a big piece, and it's important that when those guys get here, again, going back to all the relationship and the honest conversation, they can tell their players, they know, hey, when you get to UMW, what that coach said is going to be the truth. We have proof with former players of theirs, and the guys that have come into our program have had the experiences we told them they would have. So,
yeah. Do you tend to get more, and I saw your roster, you do have some private school kids. Do you tend to have better luck with the public school kids being at Mary Washington as a public institution, or it just depends on the timing of things? You may get your private school, you may have a run on private school kids as well.
Yeah, I think the majority is the public school for that reason that you mentioned, but we try, we try to get into the private schools as well. But yes, I think just Mary Washington, where we're at right now with our basketball program. We kind of maybe a little more attractive to some of the public school programs. And it's just kind of worked out that way. We try to get into some of those down in Richmond, some of the private schools down in Richmond, but there's also, we have the relationships up here. There are some coaches at some other private schools that have relationships and some inroads into those schools. So that's why it's the recruiting battle, right? Like we're we're fighting them to get into those doors, and they're trying to get up into our area as well.
Why is Virginia Division III basketball so tough? Why are there so many really good teams in Virginia, nationally rated teams? Why is the competition in Virginia so strong in Division III?
Yeah, well, I think there's a long tradition of it, in the ODAC of having good, strong basketball. We're not in that league, and that's okay. But I think that with Christopher Newport's success, the success that we're having, as you mentioned, following in Rod's footsteps and the success he had, like that there are a handful of schools that, or more than a handful of schools that are year in and year out competing against each other and making each other better, because we do it carries over into the recruiting piece. I think that there are a lot of good high school players within the state. I think that's obvious by the rosters from the in-state colleges here. And it's I don't know, but it makes it fun. It makes it competitive. It makes you work every day to know that you're trying to keep up with all these top schools. I mean, two of the last three national champions come from Virginia. The other this year, one of the two schools in the South region anyway were in the Final Four, one being from Virginia as well. And it's a battle, man. And I think that just keeps making it more attractive for high school students to look at the schools in the area, which again just keeps making our schools better. And not to mention, and now certainly not speaking of myself on this one, but there are some really, really good coaches in the state. I mean, you look at Coach Merkel down the road, Coach Krikorian down at CNU, Caleb Kimbrough, and the job he's done at Hampton-Sydney is it's awesome. And great guys. Those schools I mentioned, we're going to battle against them. I want to not like them, but they're all really good, which makes it so much more fun to compete with and against.
Yeah. Do the teams in Virginia, the colleges in Virginia, do they recruit the same flavor of player? It seems to me, I'm the Mary Washington players seem to be very familiar to me. I guess it's because your location here. But do you all tend to go after the same players, or do the schools have different tastes or different fits of athletes?
Yeah, I think it's a little bit of both. There are some that we'll show up to a game on a high school game on a Friday night, and we're all sitting in the stands together, or on the side of an AAU court, watching the same kids. But I think that certainly with some of the private schools, they get out of state a lot more than we do. And so they can have a little bit larger of a recruiting footprint, if you will. Our focus mainly being in-state, and certainly Northern Virginia, we've had a lot of success. But yeah, we're a lot of us are going after the same guys. I know some of the players you've mentioned on that first call, it's like, oh, well, who else are you looking at? And they mentioned all the schools that I've said. And so it's yeah, I mean, it's a battle for the kid. You're battling the same schools that you're going to compete against for the kids most of the time. But again, some of these schools are more out of state than we are.
Yeah. Did COVID change anything to do with admissions with players? I know my daughter just went to James Madison University, and I noticed in the state the admissions rates of all the schools are much higher after COVID. I think either less kids are going to school. I'm not sure what's going on, but has COVID changed your ability to get athletes into the school? Has that been a factor?
I don't know. I think we're probably as a program still the same percentage coming in. There might be a kid or two that we can't get in or don't get in, but for the most part, I think we do a good job at targeting them ahead of time. So I don't know that we felt it from our program. I think colleges, universities across the country are feeling that yes, there are fewer kids out there looking to go to schools now. And so, but we all need them. And so maybe some of the admissions rates are higher.
Yeah, but
I would say that that plays certainly does have an effect on it. And with the number of colleges and universities you see closing. I mean, the one near and dear to my heart of Cabrini, is shutting down at the end of this year.
they are. Cabrini shutting down.
Yeah, it'll be a sad day come, graduation at Cabrini this year. But
Wow.
yeah, so schools like that, do you think that would never happen to? It does. And so, keeping up with it, I think that more schools are admitting maybe students
Yeah.
or more than maybe what they would have in the past.
Yeah, well, one thing that's clear, you have a pattern of taking jobs in the suburbs or in the outer part of the suburbs. How does that play into recruiting kids? I would think Mary Washington, you can get kids from Northern Virginia and also Richmond, so it's a great location. But it seems like Pittsburgh. I think you're like 50 miles from Pittsburgh, and then Cabrini was probably a little closer than Philadelphia than the other ones. But is that helpful being close to the city without being in the city?
Very helpful. It has been I would say here in Cabrini very similar in that where you don't have to go very far to find good players. Yeah, Pittsburgh, we were 45 miles, whatever it was, outside the city. That still, that's a lot closer than some of those rural schools we're competing against that have to drive hours to get there to the high school games. Definitely helps. And then with the location being just outside of it, you're not in the hustle and bustle of the city every day. Your kids can kind of feel like they're out a little more comfortable, a little tucked away. Although while Fredericksburg, this area is growing so rapidly, even in my time here, that it feels more like a big city than sometimes, certainly when you get in your car and start driving. But
It definitely feels like part of the DC suburbs now, which it never did when I was a kid. I grew up in Fairfax, and Fredericksburg was the country back then. But as you're driving down 95, you don't get that impression, anymore. What about life at a college without football? And I know soccer is big there, and a lot of the ODAC, I think most or maybe all the ODAC teams have football. How does that factor in to life in Mary Washington? The fact you don't have a football team, does that elevate basketball, or does that make that some kids would like to go to the college that has football?
yeah, I don't know. We do talk about it, obviously, with incoming students that, hey, we don't have football here. I think to some that might be more attractive. To others, they may want that feel of, Saturday afternoon in the fall going to a game. I don't know how big of a factor that is. I would say that does elevate basketball, without having the football team here. But I think that would probably help all sports. I'm not sure.
Yeah.
Direct
Well,
answer for that, other than we talk about it. I hope that it's elevating us a little bit, and
what could you mentioned? We mentioned the portal and graduate students playing. How often do you feel, or does it come into play that your first college is a stepping stone? Like it's unbelievable how many schools these kids have on the resume after they graduated now. I know whenever I prepare for an interview, you'll see a lot of different schools on there. It used to be they had the high school and then there'd be a third year. Now they have their high school and the other 2 years in the profile. And this is very typical. So do you see players making decisions based on the best school for them now with the intent to transfer if things go well? Or do you think most of them, the transfer comes into play if things aren't going well? And then like it was when me and you were in college, then you look to transfer.
yeah, I think that it could be. I think that there are places, or some students. I think that even as you look at their high school track record, right? Have they bounced around in high schools? You see some of that now, where some kids are at public, then they go to private, and then they go to a different private for their last year. Those are the ones I think for us. We try to take a look at some of that. To kind of head off, okay, well, if he's doing that in high school, if he's not happy here, he's probably going to be okay leaving. we want to make sure we're giving our guys, when they get here, the best experience possible, so that portal thing, they're not even thinking about it. But as you mentioned, it's just kind of a reality of today where they're not getting what they want, or the time or the minutes, or whatever the case may be. I'm gonna jump into the portal. Or if they have a really good year. We've had guys here that pre-portal have had really good first years and thought, well, maybe now is my chance to try to go higher since I couldn't out of high school. I think that there's some cases of that, and you see them. I think that those are rare. I think most coaches, well, I'll say all coaches at all levels, we're doing our due diligence in recruiting and bringing in the right guys to fit our programs. And I don't think there's that many guys missing out. I think we all feel like maybe we missed on somebody here and there, but there's not that many missing out where kids are now going to go, if I go Division III, I'll bounce up and everybody will notice me then. That happens more for that grad transfer. Hey, in my 4 years there, I put my time in. This is where I'm at now. And now you can recruit me at 22 years old instead of 18. They're a different player and a different man, if you will. But by that time, which would be more attractive to a higher level guy. I think after the freshman year, I don't know. I do feel like I'm sure that's the mindset of some, that, hey, I'll go there. I'll put up some numbers and then I'll put my name in the portal, see where I can go. I think that's an unfortunate reality of college sports now.
Yeah. And it's not just Division III schools. Some of them use their Division I school as a stepping stone as well. Now, I know you're close to Northern Virginia and you have a lot of players. You know, I saw some Rowson names. I used to coach their uncle, Mike Rowson at Robinson. But since you're close to these kids where they're from, you're also close to their parents. How much time do you spend dealing with parents? And do you watch parents when you're recruiting kids?
For sure. We say this to them when they're here on visits. Hey, we're recruiting you as well. And we're evaluating, I should say, the entire package. We want to know what we're getting. And I hope they're doing the same with us, myself and our staff here, and our current roster. It's got to be a fit. It's just got to be the right fit. And we do spend a lot of time getting to know the parents, obviously talking to them throughout the recruiting process, having conversations with them at games, after games, here on campus. And I think it's just building that relationship with them. And to me, again, it all goes back to that, where we're recruiting them, but we're evaluating them. And there are instances that we've, maybe not brought a kid to campus because of something we've seen at a high school game or an AAU tournament, or, I would say there are conversations. You can learn a lot in a conversation, right? And if somebody's here and they're constantly ripping their high school coach or their AAU coach or a past coach, and that's why they got to leave because that guy's horrible, then they're going to probably do the same when they get to you too. And we try to head off that stuff the best we can. And I think our track record of that, the minimal number of guys that have left, I think would show that we're successful in doing it.
Yeah. Well, Coach, why'd you decide to become a coach in the first place? You had this great career. You won lots of games. I forgot to count, but I think you're almost over 300, I believe, Coach.
Yeah, I don't know the exact number, to be honest with you, but it's yes, somewhere between 3 and 4. I haven't hit 4 yet, so I know I still got a ways to go to catch up to a number of these guys. But
well, why'd you become a coach? Who were some of your influences that made you want to coach?
Yeah, my high school coach in my senior year, Coach Hoffpower, who I played for. I didn't know what I wanted to do really right as a senior in high school. Well, shoot, I thought I was going to go play at UCLA and get into and do all of that, right? He really made me like the teaching aspect of coaching and understand that part of it. That, man, he's really teaching me a lot, and not just how to run a play. There's a lot more to it. And I really took to him and the way he went about it. It was a big influence on me and wanting to get into it. I thought, oh, you know what? I'll be a teacher. That would be great doing that. I found as I went through it that I couldn't get the competitive juices out of me. So I wanted to get into coaching to make sure I had a positive outlet for that portion of it. And Coach Wagamaster, Doug Wagamaster, hired me for my first job in Grandview in Iowa. To this day, one of my favorite people to talk basketball with. Think the world of him. Coach Tyler, who I was with at Albright and Shepherd, learned under him for 2 years at 2 different places. So got to see, once he had it up and running, what it was like at Albright, and then how to jumpstart it at Shepherd. And it gave me 2 real different perspectives working under him. Big influence on me. But I would the person that made me really think, man, I want to get into coaching and this is what I want to do, was probably Coach Hoffpower coming out of high school.
Yeah. No, I know obviously you've got experience with coaching, dealing with having assistants and empowering them, working with kids and developing them. What about the basketball itself? Tactically, are you a much different coach now over the years? I mean, I know the game is in a much different place. Every year it becomes more outside. Analytics has taken over. Where are you as a coach, and how has that evolved?
Wow, I would say I'm a lot. My assistant now, Mark Sansone, he and I laughed a lot about that this year. We're coming in, I would say, coming up under a couple coaches, Coach Wagamaster, who I mentioned, and Coach Tyler, and they were much more of the philosophy of, hey, if we hold our opponents to 65, I bet we win. I took it when I got my first head coaching job at Pitt-Greensburg, and through my career, I took it more from the side of, I bet if we score 85, 90, we win. Just more of a, let's get out and go score points, and I bet we'll be okay. How that's transitioned is coming here in these last couple of years, where it's been our defense that has carried us. This year we were in the top 5, certainly top 10, I think for a while, top 5 in the country with defensive efficiency. So as you break down the analytics on the defensive side of the ball, we were really good. And that kept us in games. It allowed us to win games. We were playing teams that would average in high 80s, and we were keeping them struggling to get to 60. Our issue this past season was we struggled to get to 60 as well sometimes. So I don't know that my philosophy has changed, but I know that there's the emphasis is shifting a little bit to that, where the defensive side of the ball, not that it was never important, but it's become much more of a focus. And I think with the competitiveness of the basketball in Virginia and the basketball on our schedule that you had mentioned, we've got to be good defensively. And we've got to be much more physical than maybe I've ever taught the game being. Where again, we'd want to get out, run, shoot a bunch of threes and do that at Cabrini and Pitt-Greensburg. Here, the physicality of the game is different. And I think one of the best compliments I've gotten, I feel anyway, from other coaches after we play them is, man, you guys play hard and you're physical. And I think, okay, I've been wanting that to happen with our group. And so the last couple of years, hearing that from some people that watch our games, I enjoy hearing that. I know it's working. So.
Okay. Coach, I was away from basketball. I stopped refereeing when I had my second child in 2005, and my kids got into soccer, and I picked basketball back up about 2019 when I started all the social media stuff, and the game had really changed a lot in the meantime. But I have to say, when I watched the UConn team play this year, it was the first time I watched a team play. I have no idea what they're doing out there. There are screens coming everywhere. They're flipping, they're circling around. When you watch this UConn team play, do you get the feeling that they're onto something and that they're changing the way the game is played? Because like I said, I have no idea what they're doing out there.
Well, yeah, they're just really fundamental in what they do, right? And so it's probably teaching a lot more in concepts, and I think that's becoming more popular, teaching more the concepts of it as opposed to a direct motion where it's easier to pick up what they're doing. Right, teaching guys how you want them to play, and then kind of giving them some freedom to play, as opposed to we're going to run this offense, And so I think that there's a lot more of that, which makes teams harder to defend. That you can't lock them into one thing. I think you have to have better players, which obviously UConn does. Well disciplined, which they are obviously. In order for that stuff to really, really work for you. and they have a high level coach, high level players, and they're able to get away with doing that a lot more than maybe what we would be able to. So
Yeah. So at a Division III level, it's probably a little bit harder to recruit to a system than what he can do, because he could probably get the kind of players that can read these cues, since it's a more complex system. Whereas at Mary Washington, you're probably trying to get the best ball player and that fits your other parameters, and it's probably a little bit more difficult to find kids that play a particular system.
yes, I would say that that's true, that we kind of have our idea of what we're looking for when we go out. Can they do this? Can they help us in this area? But we have to cast obviously a wider net, a much wider net. And yeah, again, I think once you're there and you have it up and going like they do there, and now with portal and all that stuff, they can go out and handpick who they want, I'm sure.
Well, Coach, we're talking a little bit about the 23-24 season, and I did notice I believe your leading scorer. I think Greg Rousen got hurt early. He was leading scorer, but your leading scorer was 12 a game, and you're very balanced scoring in your team. When you look back on the season, you got to the conference final, so you're one game away from going to the NCAA. How would you characterize the 23-24 season?
Yeah, if I'm being brutally honest, and if I'm being blunt with it, I think it was a little disappointing. I felt we had some pretty high expectations coming into this year, coming off of an NCAA tournament the year before, where we got the at-large bid to get in, had a really strong strength of schedule, won the right games. I think this year we were kind of set up, or at least we laid it out the same way. We were playing one of the tougher schedules in the country. Our strength of schedule was really good. I thought, all right, we get in there, we win the right games, get a couple of these where if we don't win a couple, we'll still be okay because of our strength of schedule. And I thought that we were right there, but I thought we could have done a little bit better. I thought we made a little bit better than a 17-win season. However, we lose two guys that semester that were a big part of what we're doing. One which you mentioned, I mean, he was returning All-American to our team and was doing really well for us. And then we don't have him the second semester. That makes it pretty tough, especially with the schedule that we're playing. And I don't want to give us that excuse. Again, I still think we had enough to get it done. A lot of that's probably on me as well, but we had to make some adjustments to the way we were doing things. And it took us a little while to get it going. Some nights we played it really well. Some nights we struggled, but we did rely on two guys that just weren't there at the end, and we had to make that adjustment on the fly. I will say, of the year, probably one of the games I'm most proud of was the game right after we lost them, where it would have been very easy going into break on the road. Everyone's got just finished finals, and everyone's got Christmas break on their mind, going home, seeing their family, seeing their friends. Those are usually hard games to keep their attention and focus on anyway. We were going to do that on the road, down two guys. And we worked really hard all week as a coaching staff on just, hey, we've just got to get through this one game, and we've got to keep them motivated. And we came up with a little saying for the week, and we went through that. We played about as well as we did all season, even minus some guys that we were counting on. And I was really proud of their effort that night to, hey, not look ahead, let's focus. And I think that speaks to the culture of our program, the guys that we have. We know we have the right guys in place that want to compete to win. And so that kind of rejuvenated me, like, hey, we're going to be just fine. There was just one, a couple games there. It was like, dang, we lose our opening game on literally a tip in at the buzzer. We lose another game in overtime. We score to go up 2. They come down and hit it with a couple seconds left. They come down and hit a 3 at the buzzer. I think if we win those 2 games, we're probably back in the NCAA tournament, or at least pretty close to it. Those 2 teams, by the way, ended up playing each other in the Sweet 16, or to go to the Sweet 16, second round. So we're right there. Even down a couple of guys, I felt we're still right there. So the competitor in me, I guess, probably a little bit disappointed overall that we weren't in the tournament having had that the year before and kind of made that our standard. So.
Yeah. Well, looking ahead to next year, as a coach who's been doing this quite a while now, you probably in your mind were like, when did I go from being a young coach to a guy who's been doing this for a while? But we mentioned you're adding some really nice players coming in. I think you mentioned you may have some graduate students coming in, or so you have a nice team. When have you learned in the past? It's hard to project or anticipate what the team is going to be. That the team kind of evolves. You go to training, you go to practice, you play games and evolves. Or have you learned? Can you usually tell even at this point how you're going to be next year?
Yeah, I think that right now it helps me set an expectation.
Mm.
But I have learned probably the first part of what you said, that you just don't know. I mean, until we get together, we can get through those 2 weeks in October leading up to games. 2 weeks now. That it is 2 weeks leading into that first scrimmage, and then you get an idea of where you're at in that scrimmage. It can be completely different than what I'm thinking right now. You know, what I'm thinking at the end of April and how the reality shakes out, mid-December, as we learned last year. It's a little bit different. So you do have to be able to adjust some things on the fly. And I think that this last year was a good reminder of that for me. We'll have a good idea of what we want to look like, how we think we'll be when we get rolling. But also, I'm going to need to be ready to do some things on the fly. So.
Yeah. Last question, Coach. Do you enjoy the off season? Do you have less structure in terms of when you have to meet the boys every day, and you have to do a lot of traveling for games. But I'm sure you're probably on the road quite a lot in the off season. But are you enjoying this on this time?
I am. I this time of year, well, for me, it's just a different type of season now, right? It's recruiting. We're trying to wrap up the class for recruiting. I have a rising senior myself at home who's now doing the AAU circuit thing. So that keeps me really busy going to his practices and games and getting him where he needs to be. But I do enjoy that. I'm able to this time of year really spend a lot of time with my family, which, from October till the end of the season, obviously I'm not around as much as I would want to be. So yes, this time of year is good. Getting to just have guys stop by the office and say hi, hang out for a second, being different than in the middle of January versus now, right? Just different conversations, more personal, getting to know them a little bit better on a different level, especially our younger guys. And I do enjoy that part of it. And I think that it does take, I don't know that it's taken me 20, however many years, but there was, I would say early on, it was probably harder for me to have the off switch flipped, right? And it's driven 100%, all business all the time. And now I do enjoy the time where talk to our guys in a different light and not just as correcting mistakes on the court or something like that, where it can be build more of a relationship with them, especially our seniors as they're on their way out.
Yeah.
Just talking to them about the next phases of life.
Yeah. Coach, I would think, and most of the coaches I know have kids, and most of those kids play. Watching my son play soccer is one of my greatest joys of my life. I still remember almost every detail of his varsity seasons. He played up at Yorktown. Is it tough as a coach to miss your son's games live? I'm sure you watch the tapes and things, but you probably have to miss some because you're on the road and practicing. Is that tough on a coach?
It is. And there are nights like, man, I want to say this year they were going into the regional semifinal or final, and I missed because I was at a game. And it was, that's one of those where, man, I'd really love to be there for him. I want to see him play in that game. So it is. I think that for me, I still love what I do here so much and am so focused on my team that time of year. it does make it a tough balance, and it's, sometimes it's probably, hey man, I do want to be at your game. I want you to know, I know that I'm talking about my team all the time, but I do care about what you're doing as well. Um, so this time of year, it's good because I get to watch him play with his AAU team, and it's usually at events that I'm there recruiting anyway, and so I get to watch a little bit more of him then. Yeah, I mean, there's as there, I've kept both of my boys with me a lot of the time. They come with me, I should say, to practices on the weekend. So if I have a 2-a-day on a Saturday or a Sunday, I think mom enjoys some of that too, because now all three of the boys are out. We're all out of the house. She can have some quiet time. But they come and spend time with me at practice, and sit on the side and watch and get to know the team. And I enjoy that part of it too. So try to.
Oh, I'm sorry, Coach, interrupt you. You mentioned your son got to regionals. What high school does he play for?
Massaponics.
Oh yeah, they played against Riverside, right? Or
they did. Yep, they beat Riverside, and then they played Potomac Falls. I think was their downfall this year. So that was the game that I had to miss up there at Potomac Falls, because we think we were in our conference semifinals here.
Yeah, Potomac Falls has a great environment, games there. I mean, that gym just gets packed, and it is an amazing environment. Coach, do you feel like it's intimidating to coaches when you're a college coach and a high school coach is coaching your son? Is that an intimidating situation? I'm sure you are cognizant of the pressures of a high school coach, and you don't pile on, but I bet you that could be a little bit intimidating for a coach.
I hope not. Certainly with me, I'm a very intimidating person. And I actually have a really good relationship with Coach Berkeley. That I think he's great. I've said, it's funny, my son, he'll always say, Dad, you don't cheer, you don't get too excited. And I've just kind of made the deal. I'm going to go sit up there and I'm going to watch and I'm going to enjoy it. I'm not going to critique a single thing. Certainly not another coach, but not even him or his play. That, hey, I'm going to get up there and I'm going to sit and enjoy a game. I don't get too excited during the games, and we'll talk on the way home about some things if he asks. But I know I have a great relationship with Coach Berkeley, and he does a really good job, and I'm glad that Sam is there playing for him.
Yeah,
for sure, because he really responds well to his style of coaching.
That's great. It's wise for a coach or even a parent of a star player to watch what they say, because everyone's watching them. So if you misbehave or say anything, people are actually watching you because they know you're a college coach. So I think a parent who's cognizant of that is probably doing the right thing for himself and also his kids. Because I mean, just people are going to know that's the Mary Washington coach up there. He's the one that's screaming at the ref.
Yeah, right. I do that enough on our game days. I don't need to do that.
Exactly. Yeah. You're not getting paid to scream with the ref in that game. But
that's right.
Anyway, Chris, look, it's great to meet you. Thanks for taking so much time to talk to me about your journey and your thoughts on the game. It's a real exciting time in basketball, because there's a lot of moving pieces, and it sounds like you got a hold of all of them. And just wish you all the success, and hopefully you'll be able to have a season that you anticipate for next year.
Yeah, I really appreciate that. I appreciate your time and allowing me on here. I always enjoy talking about my program and what we have going on here, and so I greatly appreciate it, and look forward to hopefully doing it again.
Yeah, let's do it again, Coach, and let's definitely keep in touch.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely.
Okay, man. All right. Enjoy your off season. Take care.